Copy that, SpaceX. We're tracking the same. Talk to you soon.
And we just heard some comms from the core to the crew, letting them know we're just about 5 minutes away from that blackout period, which is very, very exciting. That means that the crew is almost going to get through the portion of passing through the atmosphere, re-entering the atmosphere, coming back down to Earth. And ironically, today is actually the 3-year anniversary, 3 years ago today, on September 15th, 2021, the Inspiration 4 mission actually launched. And so we got to hear some thoughts. We don't get to hear the Polaris Dawn crew. They haven't gone through this re-entry period. So we got to hear some thoughts from the Inspiration 4 crew on their thoughts of this re-entry period.
It's now time to come home. We've been floating in space for 3 days. What did it feel like to you guys to all of a sudden experience a 1/10 of a G as we came back?
Okay, you said that liftoff was your favorite part. Coming back was actually mine. I loved hitting the atmosphere and the dynamics of it and having the G load, come on quick, and you're like, okay, gravity's heavy.
Yeah. I much preferred launch over Splashdown. But yeah, because we were in space for 3 days, and this is something I didn't think about beforehand, but whenever we started entering the atmosphere and started feeling the gravity again, I remember saying out loud, oh my gosh, this is so intense. How many G's are we at? And Jared said 0.3.
I know.
So we were at a third of Earth gravity. And I was like, we're going to get to 4.5. But you just get through it.
Yeah, just keep breathing, right?
And then you just pray the parachutes will open. And then whenever they do, and then you hear from SpaceX 4 healthy mains, I remember screaming, thank God.
Well, that's the most intense, when they talk about the Dragon being autonomous and stuff, on Ascend going up, if the launch escape system will probably catch an error before Jared and I could react.
Right.
We could do stuff, but you've got that. But coming back,
you can't abort coming back.
You can't. But the most intense moment, I think, for the commander and the pilot is making sure that the drogues and the mains come out, because we have a short window where we can manually fire them if they don't. And I just remember, we're counting down, and then I'm like, green, yellow, and if I had gotten to red, then that wouldn't have been good. But every time green happened, the pyros went, and Jared and I were just like, there's the drogues. And we could see it on our monitor. I don't know if you could, but we're like, oh, yes, drogues. And then we go
I had
through.
to rip off my iPad to hand it to you so you could take a picture.
Take a picture. Once we got off,
screen.
Yeah, because once we got off the 4 healthy mains, Jared was like, that's the best thing I've ever seen. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, and then it was like, at that point, it was so peaceful because re-entry was very dynamic. It was the G-forces were so intense. It was more shaky than launch was. And then when the parachutes deploy, they lift you up and shake you all around. And then after they're out, then you're just kind of falling down. I remember it sounded like a summer breeze outside, and we were like in 1G and just drifting down. And then we hit the water. We knew it. It was.
Well, that was one thing too. When you said you're looking at the screens, you and I had a pretty good view, Haley. Of we could actually look out the windows at that point, and I remember seeing the Dragon capsule reorient, and as it's making those S curves to the atmosphere and seeing the clouds move very dynamically. And
see, I'd love that. That to me, hearing the Dracos firing and it's like as we're doing these giant S curves.
That's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah, it's like ingrained in my memory. And I'm like, and I remember just being there and being like, this is so cool. Yeah. And just the technology of what SpaceX has done and being able to, have a capsule that will dial itself in and slow down your descent. It's just amazing. Such a great experience. But Splashdown was awesome because when we hit the water, you're just like, we did it.
It was a very emotional moment, more than I expected.
I love what Dr. Proctor said there. We did it.
Yeah. I literally love seeing all the reactions because, we don't get to, experience these events with them. And every single one is very unique to each person's experience. And I love that all three of them have just like a different view of how each event went.
Yeah, it's so great to be able to hear their reactions. And I look forward to hearing the Polaris Dawn crew's reactions once they get back on Earth and share their experience with us. Now, the Polaris Dawn crew, we are coming up to our anticipated loss of signal. This is the point in time in which the amount of plasma building up on the exterior of the vehicle becomes significant and that we are unable to command the vehicle or receive telemetry or communicate with the crew. So this happens every time a Dragon capsule comes back through the Earth's atmosphere, and we're anticipating about a 7-minute loss of signal for today's re-entry. But it's a period in which a couple minutes before it ends, we'll hear the core call out, the core being the crew operations and resources engineer. And that person is the voice to the crew, and they're sitting right there in that room on your screen. That is Mission Control here at SpaceX in Hawthorne, California. And a couple minutes before the blackout period ends, we'll start to hear the core hail the Dragon capsule because sometimes they get through it quicker and we're able to communicate earlier than anticipated. So yeah, it's an expected period where basically no vehicle telemetry is received by Mission Control or the recovery team, and we're unable to command the vehicle. So as a reminder, though, the Dragon capsule is programmed to and designed to fly itself. So as we heard from the Inspiration 4 crew earlier, it is a period of great anticipation, but coming out on the other side is a moment of a lot of joy.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We are expected to be in the blackout period at this moment. We did hear the core call that out about 5 minutes ago. So we should be in that blackout period. Again, it should last about 6-7 minutes. And what's expected to come next is going to be, once we get through that blackout period, we will confirm we have comms with the crew once again, and then we will be expecting the drogue parachutes to deploy. Again, that helps slow the vehicle down. They've been flying very fast in space at 17,500 miles per hour. Those drogues are going to slow down the vehicle to about 350 miles per hour, and then the 4 main parachutes will deploy and slow the vehicle down as it's making its way back down to Earth, and should touch down at around 15, 16 miles per hour. So these chutes are very, very important to help keep the vehicle slowly moving towards the Earth, scrubbing that velocity as they've been moving very quickly. But they should have a very light touchdown back on Earth in the ocean.
You can hear a little bit of a crowd here forming outside of Mission Control. You can see there on your screen as some of our fellow employees are gathering in anticipation of the splashdown. It's always one of the best, not one of the best place to stand for these types of events, although it is pretty late on a Saturday night, so perhaps not the normal size crowd.
This is this is a pretty good event for a Saturday night, I think. This is where I'd want to be.
So once again, we are in the blackout period. Anticipated loss of communications. We do anticipate to regain those communications around 12:30 a.m. Pacific time or 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. Just after that, as Jesse was saying, we'll see the drogue parachutes deploy about 2 minutes after, and then about 2 minutes after coming back from the blackout period, we'll see those drogues deploy, and then just a minute later, we'll see the main parachutes deploy. So, as we said earlier, this is a series of events that when you start, it seems like, oh man, it's going to take a while, but they do happen in rapid succession. And I just noticed there's a turtle inflatable down in front of Mission Control in celebration of our new landing location at Dry Tortugas.
Yeah, I love that. Celebrating our new splashdown zone, welcoming the Polaris Dawn crew home. And we are a little over halfway through that blackout period. We are expecting to hopefully gain comms back in about a couple minutes from now again. And this, you can see on your screen, is the first ground view of the Dragon capsule making its way back, entering the Earth's atmosphere.
I love this view. It's so fun to watch this. I can only imagine what it would be like to watch it with our own eyes. This thermal view in particular is really cool because you can see the trail behind it.
Oh, that is so awesome. There's 4 humans inside of that capsule right now.
Now, once again, we are in the anticipated communications blackout period. Basically, there is an envelope of ionized air around the spacecraft, and it blocks radio signals from reaching Dragon. So this basically plasma field around it prohibits us from commanding the vehicle or from communicating with the crew. So this anticipated blackout period lasts about 7 minutes, so we should be coming out of it here in about the next minute or so. We will probably start to hear the SpaceX core begin to reach out to the Dragon capsule, just trying to hail them, or we might even hear from the Polaris Dawn crew first. Oh, that's an incredible view from the recovery ship stationed out in the water.
That is a sight to see for the people that are watching this live. It's not a comet. It is just the Polaris Dawn crew coming back to Earth. Wow, that is an amazing view.
Once again, we expect this blackout period to end in about a minute. Another view of the
Dragon SpaceX comm check.
Dragon has you loud and clear. Help me, SpaceX.
Loud and clear, Jared. Expect automated chute deployment.
Incredible views, incredible comms. We have regained communications with the Polaris Dawn crew. This is a drone circling the recovery vessel. And that little white dot, the big white dot on the right, obviously the moon, the little white dot there in the center of your screen is the Dragon resilience vehicle making its way, its final few kilometers back down to planet Earth after spending 5 days in orbit.
Wow, just some epic views tonight. You can hear the crowd here in Hawthorne getting excited. We've confirmed that we have comms with the crew.
Dragon SpaceX, GPS converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same and tracking.
And the crew is still traveling very quickly right now as they're coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. But as you heard, the drogue chutes should be deploying here shortly, and that's going to slow them down significantly.
Yeah, we expect those to deploy in about 90 seconds. And as we heard in those comms, it's triggered by GPS. So the Dragon capsule, using that GPS, will automatically know exactly when to deploy it, and that happens around 40 kilometers. Once the drogue parachutes deploy, about a minute after that, we'll see the main parachutes.
And it's pretty incredible that we only...
We can see seat rotation now underway. This helps put the crew in a more ergonomic position in anticipation of
Brace
splashdown.
for drogue window.
Copy, we're bracing.
Should see those chutes deploy here shortly. And you can see the crew bracing
As instructed.
for the change in velocity.
Standing by for deployment of the drogue parachutes. These will help bring the vehicle down from about 350 miles per hour when they deploy down to about 119 miles per hour when the main parachutes deploy. There we can see that the drogue chutes have successfully deployed. It's a great thermal image. And that view is from the actual basin where those drogue parachutes are located.
Dragon SpaceX visual on 2 healthy drogues.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same.
These drogue parachutes help to stabilize the Dragon capsule and get it into the right orientation before those main parachutes pop out, as well as providing that initial deceleration.
This is such a great thermal shot of the Dragon capsule. You can see it turning a little bit with the drogue parachutes. And there are the 4 main chutes now deployed. They'll slowly open up to their full deployment here in just a few seconds.
Incredible views of the Polaris Dawn crew returning to Earth after 5 days in Earth's orbit. The crowd here at Mission Control in Hawthorne cheering.
Dragon SpaceX visual on 4 mains and descent rate nominal.
It's a beautiful sight to see.
Copy that, SpaceX. We show the same. 1,000.
Copy 1,000.
Beautiful sight to see those 4 healthy main parachutes. So great.
Now, in about 2 minutes, we expect our splashdown to occur.
And you may hear the crew and the Corps talking. They're communicating about their altitude as they make their way back down to Earth.
We should start.
800.
Yeah, there it is. So we should start to hear
Copy 8.
Are hearing our commander, Jared Isaacman, call out the altitude as they descend to the ocean's surface. We can see the Polaris Dawn crew nestled in their seats there on the left-hand side of your screen as they anticipate their
600.
splashdown.
Copy 6.
And you can see the difference in velocity. This is a lot gentler than just a few minutes ago. Dragon is coming back down to Earth.
Absolutely. These main parachutes deploy at about 119 miles per hour and help slow the Dragon capsule down to about 15 miles per hour when it makes contact with the ocean.
You can also see that the capsule is now
400.
the capsule is now stabilized. It's no longer spinning like we saw it with the drogue parachutes.
$200. We're bracing.
Copy 200 embraced.
Racing for splashdown.
That will be the final call we hear from Jared until contact with the ocean surface. Standing by for a splashdown of the Polaris Dawn crew. And there you can see.
SpaceX copies VC splash.
As you can see on your screen, and by the cheers behind us, the Polaris Dawn crew has successfully splashed down.
Welcome back to planet Earth, Polaris Dawn.
SpaceX recovery team now moving into place to begin the process of strapping the Dragon capsule up with the necessary rigging in order to lift it onto the recovery vessel. Dragon capsule appears to be in a pretty stable position after
SpaceX Dragon, vehicles code 1, cruise code 1.
SpaceX copies code 1.
Now, the recovery teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away. So it's going to take them just about 30 minutes to make their way to Jared, Kid, Sarah, and Anna, who are currently inside of the Dragon capsule that you see there on your screen, back here, home on Earth.
That call out that we heard earlier, confirmation of what I had said a little bit prior to in terms of that stable configuration. That code 1 call out is the reflection of the crew's reporting of that landing position. We can see the Dragon capsule bobbing in the distance. Like Jesse said, the recovery team is a little ways away from the splashdown location, obviously to ensure their safety, as well as the safety of the Polaris Dawn crew. So it takes a little while for the large recovery vessel to make its way over to the Dragon capsule, but there are a couple of fast boats that we will likely see come into screen sooner than later. And those fast boats carry...
SpaceX Dragon, we're stable 1.
Those fast boats carry...
Copy, stable 1.
Those fast boats carry the recovery team members that will scoop up the parachutes from the water, excuse me, as well as perform the initial safety checks to make sure that there are no hypergolic fuel vapors or any basically potentially harmful vapors remaining around the Dragon capsule following the deorbit sequence. So we'll see a crew with some personal protective equipment wearing that personal protective equipment around the capsule, performing those safety checks before allowing anyone to get too close to the capsule.
Yeah, and I love that we have those fast boats. You know, instead of waiting for the recovery vessel to make it with crew members on board there, we have the fast boats to get there while the recovery vessel is making its way towards the capsule, and we can do all that work in advance. And they are very fast, as you can see.
SpaceX, on behalf of the entire team at SpaceX, welcome home. We have pulled go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in approximately 1 minute.
Copy that, SpaceX, and Polaris Dawn, we are mission complete. Thanks for all the big help pulling this mission together.
Now, we did see a jet ski pass by. That jet ski has a couple recovery folks on board. They've got the go to do those, gas and hazardous checks to make sure that Dragon is safe for the recovery vessel to approach.
Yeah, and this view here is actually from a drone hovering near the Dragon capsule, so it gives you a little bit better perspective of how close the fast boats are. Like I mentioned before, some of them are scouring the water looking for the parachutes that were released after Dragon splashed down. We'll try to retrieve those. Another fast boat will approach and begin those safety checks for any hypergolic vapors. We can see them getting... you can kind of see one of those parachutes there floating in the water to the right-hand side. And then the moon in the distance. What a great view.
Some great lighting from the moon at this night splashdown tonight.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've had these views on our recovery webcasts. So it's pretty cool to see. I love that we get this view right here where we can see the lights on inside Dragon capsule through the windows.
Almost looks like the eyes of Dragon.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So the fast boat that is closest to the Dragon capsule, that is the crew that will begin. Yeah, you can see with the stick there, that is basically a hypergolic detection device. And yeah, they will attach to the Dragon capsule to get a little closer. And we can see that they have respirators on. This helps ensure that if there are any lingering vapors, that they will not be exposed to those. Now, the recovery team, just like the Polaris Dawn crew, they perform quite a bit of training in order to be able to perform these activities safely. In fact, for those of you that have never watched our recovery shows before, but there will actually be someone that jumps into the water and begins climbing on Dragon capsule in order to secure the straps that are necessary to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water. Oh, there's a cool shot there because you can actually see the basin where the main parachutes were located. That's where here's a thermal view now. But yeah, that lower, larger basin is where the main parachutes were located. A Dragon capsule definitely looks toasty, having come back through the Earth's atmosphere.
A little bit toasty there. It was a little hot coming back.
Yeah.
And again, right now the recovery team is ensuring the safety of the crew, making sure there's no hazardous gases around the vehicle. They're pulling the chutes out of the water.
Which is what that thing is below the Dragon capsule there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. It is not a giant squid. I love how there are lights on these boats. Maybe not there. Actually, I take that back. I don't think it's lights on the boats. I think it's lights with some of...
Dragon SpaceX, hypergol sweeps, and unfired ordnance checks nominal. Rigging in progress, approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC.
Copy that. 5 minutes for capsule lift, and glad all the checkouts are good.
All right, great news there, letting us know, and we can see that the crew members have basically taken off their respirators, allows them to work a little bit more efficiently. Also heard that the crew will have their...
Dragon SpaceX for PMC.
PMC standing for Private Medical Conference, so this is an opportunity to check in with...
SpaceX.
We'd like to try and do the PMC in 10 minutes, 10 minutes, looking for crew to be okay with that wait.
Crew's good. We'll call you if we need to pull it in, but right now 10 minutes seems good.
Copy.
All right, so that PMC Private Medical Conference, that's just an opportunity for the crew to chat with the flight surgeon, check in, make sure everybody's feeling good. So it sounds like the crew is on board to have that occur in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, the recovery team's here on your screen scurrying. Oh, there, our first view of the individual on top of the capsule. I have said this in many Splashdown webcasts before. Not enough money in the world to convince me to do that job. I have so much admiration and respect for the people that can. Just doing that in dark water would be terrifying to me. And I love how efficient and well-trained all of these individuals are. We can see it in action here. They function as a really strong unit altogether. These waters are pretty calm, but you can see the capsule and the boats kind of moving around. And it's not like they're on land.
Yeah. And yeah, Kate, I mean, at least they are near the Florida Keys. They probably got some pretty clear water, even though it is nighttime. I wouldn't mind, jumping on top of the capsule and trying to rig up the Dragon capsule there. It looks like a pretty fun job, actually.
Yeah, I think nighttime would be a hard no. Daytime, maybe.
Dragon SpaceX for PMC.
Go SpaceX.
All right, we're actually ready to do a PMC now, so I'm going to be privatizing Dragon to ground. You'll next hear from the ship surgeon.
Copy that, SpaceX.
So cool to see this happening live with the various recovery team members working to install the straps and the rigging that is necessary in order to safely lift the Dragon capsule out of the water. I want to give a special shout out to the SpaceX weather team and the recovery team for unlocking this location and adding it to our sites of availability for Dragon recovery opportunities and options, because as we saw trying to launch this mission when we were just kidding. Fake Quindar. When we were trying to launch this, weather was really problematic, and it wasn't just the weather at the launch site, which is what most
Dragon
people think of.
Dragon ground is no longer privatized.
Copy that, SpaceX.
Yeah, the weather at the launch site is what most people think of, but when we have a shorter duration, basically free flyer type mission like this, where the Dragon capsule is only in orbit for a few days, not only do we have to look at the immediate weather around the launch site and the weather during the ascent abort phases like we always do, but at the time of launch, we also have to be really confident that there will be good weather in at least a couple of landing locations available to us at the time of launch. And that wasn't an option for any of our existing sites. And the recovery team and the weather team worked really hard to identify this new location, and just look how calm the waters are. Wow.
It was perfect for this splashdown today. And yeah, Kate, like for the last few weeks, weather, in Florida is,
that time of year.
It's the hurricane season, so it's a little bit tough. And like you said, 5 days trying to make sure that weather is good from start to finish is really, really difficult with that type of weather there in Florida. Where typically, other missions we've gone to the International Space Station where we can kind of wait out weather if we need to. For a mission like the Free Flyer, like you said, that's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
We don't have as much cargo space to keep food and supplies much longer than the planned duration of the mission. Obviously, there's some extra in there in case they did need to stay out in space, but we got some excellent weather for this. And a big shout out to Starlink. We've got this view here brought to you by Starlink, and we're now seeing the recovery vessel getting closer and closer to the Dragon capsule. This is where the Dragon capsule is going to be lifted out of the water onto this recovery vessel.
A great shot of the helicopter pad there on top. That's pretty cool.
So a helicopter is going to come once the crew is on board, once the capsule is on board, the crew's on board, and has exited the Dragon capsule. A helicopter is going to come, land on the recovery vessel, and actually fly the crew back to land. That's a lot faster path than waiting on the recovery vessel to get back to land. And that's important to make sure that the crew is safe, healthy, and they can get into, hopefully get some sleep maybe.
Yeah, I did make a note that the crew, while they are on orbit, everything is scheduled, including their sleep periods. And they actually had their wake-up call at 6:25 p.m. Pacific time, or 9:25 p.m. Eastern time. So it's right now almost 1 a.m. Pacific time. So yeah, they've been awake for a while, and they had quite quite a day, honestly. And I'm sure that they are most excited to see their families again, and also probably pretty excited to get a good night's sleep.
In a bed.
Yeah.
Instead of floating around.
Yeah. Now, if you've recently joined us, unfortunately, you missed quite a bit of action already, but we still have a bit to go. So far, we, as you can see, have had a successful splashdown of the Dragon capsule carrying the Polaris Dawn crew. They splashed down about 12:36 a.m. Pacific time. Unfortunately, I was too excited and I didn't catch the exact splashdown time, but I think it was right around then. And that is now the recovery of the capsule is now underway. This view is of the recovery team in one of those fast boats. We can see some of the recovery crew members working to place the straps and the rigging around the capsule that will be used, excuse me, to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto the recovery vessel. And from there, the crew members the recovery team members will open up the side hatch. And that will be the first breath of fresh air that this crew has had since they lifted off. Let's see, 5 days ago. Oh, man, this week has been such a blur. I guess that was Monday night, I think.
A Monday night for us, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, yeah, it's been quite a few days. And once that hatch is open, we will then bring each crew member out one at a time. They will then head up to the medical deck and have an in-person checkout with the flight surgeon, the flight surgeon that is on the ship, so the ship surgeon. And yeah, from there they'll get on that helicopter that you mentioned.
Yeah, and the flight surgeon will be the first to greet the crew once that hatch is open, and they'll help the recovery team and crew will help them exit the Dragon capsule if they need to. And we actually, again, 3 years ago today, the Inspiration 4 crew lifted off and did their 3-day mission in space. So we'll get to hear some of their thoughts on what that was like exiting the capsule for the first time coming back down to Earth.
It was a really kind of a bittersweet time. Like, we knew we had just completed all these different milestones. We had done all that research. And I know Polaris Dawn, they have so much more research they're going to get through. But we had just got down into the water, and now we're just sitting there waiting and waiting to come out and then go on to the next thing, right? And how do we take this story? How do we take this experience and share it with everybody that's been experiencing it with us, which they were. They were watching us the entire time, which I think was amazing. We had so many people donate to St. Jude during our flight. That was one of the most incredible things to learn about.
Yeah, later that night after Splashdown, when we found out we surpassed our $200 million fundraising goal, I remember I just couldn't stop crying. I was just so happy.
And I love the fact that, our families heard the sonic boom of us coming home. It's like we announced, here we come.
I'm glad they knew that was a good thing.
Yeah, that's right.
But my brother, Hayden is an aerospace engineer. He was like, yeah. He was so excited to hear that. He knew exactly what it was.
And we were the first SpaceX crew to splash down in the Atlantic. So we were the first crew to cause a sonic boom back over Florida since the shuttle stopped flying.
Yeah, I know. Such a special moment, Right. And I just remember getting back onto the boat and and then working on opening up the side hatch for the first time, and Anil being there to welcome us. And
welcome home, Earthling.
I'll never forget that.
And I think about the fact that Anil got to greet us, and now he's a NASA astronaut, and the fact that Anna gets to go and have that experience.
And during all of this, she was with our families.
Yes.
She was supporting them, and all of them were supporting our mission. So Sarah was in mission control. She was chatting with us for launch and in space, and she had trained us to that point. And then Kid was one of the first faces that we saw back on Earth. He had been there every step of the way. And
with fried chicken.
With the fried chicken.
yeah, I was ready for some Earth food when I got back.
I thought that was funny because you were like, fried chicken. I just remember you, and you're kind of like
hanging out of our mouths as we were diving
Yeah,
into it.
there's this photo, and I'm still like getting used to gravity again, which we had been there 3 days. I didn't think it'd be such a readjustment, but I'm laying on this stretcher. I've been eating fried chicken, and it's all over me, and I didn't even sit up. I was like, I don't care. I'm so happy.
I remember Anil coming in and being like, to help us get out of our suit, out of our seats, and thinking, I've got this. I've got to be like, this is going to be my Phoenix Rising moment coming off of the spacecraft. What were you thinking when you first got up on the land and, it was onto the boat and the camera's there and you're standing?
I know. I felt like I wanted to have a good show as well. But the problem I had was that the boat started rocking.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm unsteady. And so I look like this, this kind of elephant who's learning how to walk for the first time. I was really excited to be back and to go see everyone and share the story. And I felt great. I felt awesome. And I looked at you guys coming out too, and you were just strutting your way on to the next section. And then Jared, of course, followed behind me.
Oh yeah, Jared was last out. Jared always let us go first.
Yep. Ladies first.
Yep.
Love hearing the inspiration for memories, really, of their own spaceflight mission. I'm sure that the second time around for Jared will feel a little bit different. He, had flown on the Inspiration 4 mission, as they were mentioning, and this is a cool view because we can start to see how close the recovery vessel is to the Dragon capsule. We still have the fast boat there working to install the straps that are required to lift the vehicle into that nest that you see there on your screen. So that arm will actually extend out over the water, and that is what will lift the Dragon capsule up and into that nest there at the end. That nest will then translate to the forward end of the boat, the recovery vessel, and that's where we'll let them hang out while we open up the side hatch.
Oh, wow. That is just an incredible view. Some great lights, some clear water.
Clear skies, we got the moon.
Yeah, the moon in the background, and all brought to you by Starlink. I loved hearing that Haley's first thing coming out of the capsule was eating fried
Dragon
chicken.
SpaceX, be advised, transitioning forward link. Comm will be unavailable for a little less than 5 minutes.
Copy that, SpaceX.
Yeah, getting some fried chicken fresh off the Dragon capsule. And also another cool full circle moment with Anil, that is Anna Menon's husband, was the flight surgeon that greeted the Inspiration 4 crew, which is really cool. And now Anna has completed her mission in space. Just so cool to see that full circle moment. Again, I can't believe this is all happening on the same day that the Inspiration 4 launched 3 years ago.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so we can start to see the recovery team getting closer to the Dragon capsule, one of the fast boats there in the background, as well as the capsule itself coming into view. This arch, rather, that you see in a perfectly vertical position, that will actually extend out to about 45 degrees or so. And it will happen quite quickly. Basically, once all of the straps are in place and secure and tight, that arm will extend. You can see a protective buoy there at the end of the vessel to help make sure that nothing comes into contact with the Dragon capsule. But once those straps are attached and that arm, that hydraulic arch is extended out, the Dragon capsule will actually be lifted up and out of the water pretty efficiently and placed into that circular basket-looking thing, or what we call it a nest. And that is basically the landing point for the Dragon capsule. You can see it has a bit of a concave shape to help support the similarly concave shaped heat shield at the bottom of the Dragon capsule.
And once the Dragon capsule is in the Dragon nest, it will translate and move forward towards the front of the boat, actually more towards the middle of the boat, to a platform. As you probably can see on the Dragon capsule, the hatch is about in the middle of the Dragon capsule. So there is a platform for when they open up that hatch that it is very easy to exit the capsule to the platform.
Now, while we can't see the crew themselves, they are remaining in their seats and strapped in with their safety harnesses. But at this point in time, they have opened up their visor, excuse me, as the dynamic portion of flight has concluded. We do continue to flow some cooled nitrox or nitrogen oxygen air mixture in through their suits to help keep them comfortable during this phase. But they are also at this point in time allowed to retrieve their water bottles, which had previously been stored for reentry. So yeah, they're able to stay cool and hydrated and just hang out and enjoy the last few minutes within their home for the last 5 days.
They've done a lot of great work this week, so they get a little bit of time to relax and patiently wait as they wait for that hatch to open and get that first fresh breath of air. Again, just some great views here. This is the recovery vessel with the helipad on top of it. Again, a helicopter is going to land on that pad there, board the crew, and take them back to land very quickly, back to their families and friends that'll hopefully be there to greet them back to Earth.
I love this drone shot that we have. First time we've had a view like this for our recovery operations, and it's...
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
Dragon, as you loud and clear, how many?
Loud and clear, forward link transition complete.
Copy that, SpaceX.
All right, we can see the recovery team continuing to pull the Dragon capsule a little bit closer. There's still one individual there in the bucket where the main parachutes are stored during flight. You can also see at the top of, basically at the top of what is the side hatch, there's another bucket, and that's where the drogue parachutes are located.
Dragon, SpaceX, rigging complete, approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Copy that, 5 minutes till capsule lift.
And again, the core communicating to the crew as they can't see outside of the capsule, so there's a lot of movements going on. There's a lot of sounds that they're going to be hearing, and there you can see the hydraulic lift mechanism lowering into position in preparation for lifting the Dragon capsule out of the water.
We'll see the recovery team individual who's there placing those attachment straps onto the straps that he's already basically put around the circumference of the Dragon capsule. That individual will climb up a little bit higher on the capsule and then jump off into the dark water. And here's a cool view from above that helicopter pad. That is where the helicopter will land and take the 4 crew members back to land. So about 5 minutes, well, at this point, 4 minutes until the capsule is lifted out of the water.
Dragon, SpaceX, brace for capsule lift.
There they go.
Copy that, SpaceX, we're bracing.
It's probably warm water, Kate.
Yeah, you know what? Sea creatures love warm water too, in my head.
They're not going to hurt you.
We can see the Dragon capsule now coming out of the water. Our first view of that well-loved heat shield at the bottom of the Dragon resilience vehicle. Dragon now completely out of the water and will be lowered onto that cradle there. Once the Dragon capsule is lowered, we will see the recovery team, who are obviously out of the way for safety reasons at this point in time. But once the capsule is translated and secured, we'll see them begin to hose it down with fresh water. As we reuse these capsules, we want to try and minimize the effects of corrosion, which of course happen due to salt water. So we will actually begin to see not only that basin where the main parachutes were located, that will get rinsed out, as well as the overall capsule.
And the crew is now on the recovery vessel, probably their first moment of a little bit more stability being back on Earth. Again, what will happen next is once the Dragon capsule is fully seated in the nest, and we'll remove all the rigging from the capsule, that will then translate that capsule and move it forward to a platform.
Dragon SpaceX, welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks. Stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Copy that, SpaceX. Standing by.
All right, great news there. And it looks like actually the estimation for lift was we completed it 2 minutes early. So like I said, it's a pretty efficient operation. The recovery team, not only have they performed this on numerous actual human space flight missions, but also in rehearsals and training procedures of their own. So it looks like the crew members that you see there have donned some PPE once again. These are respirators that help to ensure that if there are any lingering hypergolic fumes, that they will not be exposed to it. So they are actually installing plugs into basically the outlet of those Draco thrusters and performing additional hypergolic sniffs to ensure that there are no residual fumes. Once they install all of the necessary Draco plugs, they will continue with a final round of detection checks. And
Dragon SpaceX, looking for your okay to come on board with cameras.
SpaceX Dragon, you're welcome aboard with the cams.
SpaceX copies.
Recovery team continuing with the installation of those safety plugs to help prevent any fumes from the Draco thrusters. Our Draco engines utilize hypergolic propellants, and those are toxic to humans, of course, and so we want to ensure the safety of our recovery team as well as the Polaris Dawn crew. So we're going to close up those thrusters and perform some additional fume checks before allowing anyone to approach. Oh, our first view inside the capsule post splashdown. Got some happy faces, visors up, and then seatbelts on.
Yeah.
The classic kid thumbs up.
Yes, I love it.
Yep. I've actually been following along with I've been following along with the procedures that they have on their tablets. They're located on their legs, and it's actually written into their procedure to remain seated and restrained, just in case if anybody inside was feeling daring. They are still required to keep all hands inside the ride at all times.
Yeah, that is actually very important. They have been out in space for 5 days. They don't have gravity, forcing their muscles to be working the way that we utilize them here on Earth. So it is important that when they do take their first steps, that we have some of the crew and the medical team there to support them in case they need any help.
Absolutely.
Again, it's only been 5 days. The Inspiration 4 crew did 3 days, and they were able to pretty easily walk out of the capsule, but we'll see how this crew does back on gravity.
Yeah. Everyone seems to be pretty calm and collected and just chilling out as they await for the Dragon capsule to be translated. Looks like that should be happening just in the next couple the next couple of minutes as the recovery team completes their safety installations and removing some harnessing connections. That nest that the Dragon capsule is in will move toward the forward end of the vessel, where there is basically in the central part of the vessel there is a deck where SpaceX crew members are standing by, and as Jesse said, will be able to assist the astronauts if necessary to get out of the capsule or egress, as we say.
And a cool view here, just looking from behind the seats. On your left-hand side is Commander Jared Isaacman, and your right-hand side is our pilot, Kid Poteet.
You can kind of get a feel for the difference in seat position in terms of the position that it's in now and the position that the seats were in while the crew was still in space. The warning and the 1.21 gigawatts stickers were a little bit closer to us, I feel like. So it kind of gives you a feel for the amount of rotation in those seats. Pretty cool to be able to see the same displays that the crew utilizes while they were in flight. Once again, Dragon resilience has been successful. Well, first of all, made an on-time splashdown in the, I guess this would be, considered in the Florida Keys down near at Dry Tortugas. And they had a pretty quick recovery out of the water. They are now on the recovery vessel and standing by for the final preparations performed by the recovery team prior to basically opening that side hatch. Once again, this will be the first time that the Polaris Dawn crew will have fresh air. It'll be fresh, salty, fishy air, but fresh air nonetheless. And there we can see the Dragon capsule now being moved toward the central part of the ship. You can see there. There are some SpaceX crew members also wearing respirators, once again, as we will perform the final hypergolic safety sniffing tests. As I mentioned earlier, beginning to spray the Dragon capsule down with fresh water to try and rinse that salt water off of the metallic components.
This is very exciting. We're just a few minutes away. There's still some more procedures that they have to go through in order to open that hatch, but just a few minutes away from hatch opening. And again, the first person that will meet them will be the flight surgeon who will enter the capsule and make sure that the crew is feeling good and ready to exit their seats.
For those of you that have joined just recently, the Dragon capsule carrying the Polaris Dawn crew splashed down just 41 minutes ago at 12:36 a.m. Pacific time, 3:36 a.m. East Coast time. And here we are 40 minutes later. Pretty quick operations by the recovery teams in terms of getting over to where the capsule landed, getting the parachutes out of the water, and adhering the required straps, and ultimately lifting the Dragon capsule up onto the recovery vessel, as we just saw a few minutes ago. Right now, the recovery team outside of the Dragon capsule, like I said before, spraying down the capsule with some fresh water.
Dragon SpaceX, stand by for side hatch opening and egress.
All right, good news there.
Copy that, SpaceX. We're standing by.
Looks like those safety checks were quick and successful as everyone has doffed their respirators.
And there you can see officially the hatch is open.
I just heard cheering from a distant part of the building. I have a feeling that came from the Dragon teams at their computers. That was pretty cool. That is the flight surgeon doing initial medical checks, making sure that everybody is feeling good. I have a feeling by his smiling face, he's getting 4 smiling faces in return.
The Polaris Dawn crew has now officially taken their first breath of Earth air in the last 5 days.
We can see the recovery team in the background basically putting up some protective fixtures around the side hatch in order to ensure that as the crew egresses and gets assisted as they come out of the capsule, that they don't hurt the side hatch seals or themselves. Obviously want to protect the individuals as well.
And super exciting, we can see that the crew is now prepping the Dragon capsule for the crew egress. And there is, they're going to be removing their harnesses, removing any equipment out of the way to ensure that they are safe to step out of their seats and egress the Dragon capsule.
Even the flight surgeon has to be assisted. It's some tough maneuvering. So we'll start to see the footrests. The recovery team will come in, and there is our Polaris Dawn crew. Our first live view with the side hatch open, fist pumps, thumbs up. I'm sure if we had audio, there would be some cheers as well.
I'm sure the crew is so excited to be home, mission complete, like they said, after 5 days of some historic milestones.
That smiling face there in the side hatch taking pictures, I'm sure that is John Kraus, also known as Snap. He is I believe the content director for the Polaris Dawn program. I'm sure it's an exciting moment to be able to capture both with video and photo the smiling faces of the crew members. Now we can see some SpaceX crew members, recovery team, they'll come in, they will start to remove the footrests at the bottoms of each seat. That will help give a little bit more moving room, or I should say area to for folks to get in and help our 4 Polaris Dawn astronauts get out a little bit easier.
And there's a footrest being removed there, as Kate mentioned.
Fun fact about those footrests, they are custom sized for each astronaut, as well as the armrests. So each armrest and footrest basically comes in like a small, medium, or large option, and depending on, excuse me, the foot length and the arm length of each individual, they get their appropriate size for their body measurements.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with the seats themselves, the suits themselves are all customized to each individual astronaut and crew member. Basically, they get a customized version just for themselves for these missions.
Now we can see that, the crew members are now able to undo their safety harnesses, their 5-point safety straps, and I guess that would be the last step before being able to get out. Now it seems as though the first person to come out will be Anna Menon, who is on the far right side as we are looking at it. She is in seat 4. Yeah. So Anna is now making her way with this assisted egress. Mission Specialist Anna Menon.
There she is.
Fellow
Some big waves.
SpaceXer.
Yes.
So happy. I love this. So excited.
Welcome back to Earth, Anna.
We heard Haley Arsenault, who was one of the mission specialists, and she for the Inspiration 4 mission. We heard her say that Jared always let the ladies go first, and so I have a feeling that Sarah might be the next one to egress here. Yep, we can see her now getting out of her seat. She and Anna had the 2 window seats. SpaceX team assisting her to make sure that she doesn't hit the side hatch in any way.
So much excitement. Our second SpaceXer to fly in space, mission specialist Sarah Gillis, back on Earth.
So cool to see her. Now, egressing is our pilot, Kid Poteet. I would bet good money that we're going to see some thumbs up once Kid exits. It's pretty cool to see that they are coming out, standing up on their own 2 feet and walking off.
SpaceX Dragon, this is the final call. Sign off.
Some dance moves.
That's pretty great. I think that move should be added to the required choreography for human spaceflight missions. You know, we have the astronaut lean back when they approach their rocket on launch day. The kid shuffle, I think, should be the next one for post egress. We heard Jared get one last call out on the loops before egressing himself.
And the final Polaris Dawn crew member egressing Dragon Resilience, Commander Jared Isaacman. Our second frequent flyer in Dragon, completing his second mission in space.
For a second, I thought... For a second, I thought he was saying goodbye to his spacecraft, but it turns out he was saying goodbye to the people still in there assisting him with his egress. So incredible to see. What a day. What a week.
What a week.
And now with our Polaris Dawn crew safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by our medical team, what an incredible and exciting mission this has been. Next up, the crew will actually catch a helicopter flight back to shore where they will rejoin their families.
Over the 5-day mission, Polaris Dawn set records and marked a few firsts that are critical to SpaceX's long-term plans for making humanity a multiplanetary species. After lifting off on Tuesday, September 10th at 5:23 a.m. Eastern Time from Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, Dragon climbed to an apogee of just over 1,408 kilometers, flying further than any Dragon to date and traveling further from Earth than any humans since the end of the Apollo program. Then on September 12th, SpaceX teams and the Polaris Dawn crew successfully conducted the first spacewalk from Dragon, testing our new in-house developed EVA suits and procedures that will be critical for building bases and cities on the Moon and Mars.
Yeah, and it was so cool to watch that. The crew also performed a number of science and research experiments while in orbit, including 36 research studies and experiments designed to advance both human health on Earth and during long-duration spaceflight. And over the course of the mission, the crew demonstrated Starlink's power to transform the way we communicate with spacecraft and people in low Earth orbit, including that incredible music moment, which I've watched many times and will continue to watch even more. Now, our future in space is definitely bright, and it's really exciting to think about where we will be in the not-too-distant future. With all of that, thank you so much for joining us tonight and all week. As always, be sure to check x.com/SpaceX for updates. I'm Kate Tice.
And I'm Jesse Anderson. Thank you to everyone for being with us this week for the Polaris Dawn mission, and have an incredible night.